Have you ever wondered why the idea of death makes us anxious? What gives it that dreadful, sinister character that makes it so hard to face? Why do we have to look serious and sad when we talk about it? Yet, death is an integral part of our lives. It's always there, every second, reminding us of our mortality. So let's take a minute to acknowledge that death is natural, and it's only when it feels close that we start to worry. As human beings, we are naturally afraid of the unknown. We can't process the idea of ceasing to exist, and that's when we start to lose our way. The reality is that we're too attached to this world, and we're afraid of losing. In death, we lose everything: our relationships, our bodies, our possessions. In fact, it's not death itself that worries us because death is an incomprehensible mystery. We know nothing about it. We can't talk about death as if we've lived it. It's more our imagination and our representation of death that make us anxious. As human beings, we like to imagine the worst-case scenario. We envision all sorts of catastrophic situations and project ourselves toward them, leaving the present moment behind. Epicurus, an ancient Greek philosopher, had a pretty unique perspective on death. He believed that death isn't something we should fear. He said, "Death is nothing to us. When we exist, death is not, and when death comes, we no longer exist." Basically, he thought that death isn't an experience we'll have because we won't be around to experience it. According to Epicurus, worrying about death is like worrying about a place you've never been and will never go. Since we won't feel anything when we die, there's really no reason to be afraid of it. Now, you may ask, what about the death of loved ones? Should we pretend nothing happened and go on with life as normal? That's not the idea. The idea is that we must accept death as an inescapable part of life. It's not about changing the sadness and grief that the death of a loved one can bring. Rather, it's about accepting that our sadness is about ourselves and not about death itself. The tears we shed are tears of loss and the emptiness that person left behind. What grieves us is no longer being able to share moments of pleasure and joy with the person who has left us. It's the fact that we're deprived of their presence, their support, and the laughter they gave us. Recognizing this can help us shift our perspective and maybe find some peace. For the Stoics, worrying about something that doesn't depend on us and that exceeds our limits makes no sense. We can't escape the inevitable truth of death, but we can accept it. Acceptance of death might be the key to living a fuller life. If we come to terms with the fact that death is just a natural part of life, we can focus more on enjoying the present moment rather than fearing what's to come. Projecting ourselves into the future and fearing things we know nothing about is like fleeing our present reality for a cause that doesn't exist. If death is inevitable, then what's the point of thinking about it indefinitely? What is the purpose of this thinking? If thinking about death is a way of accepting it and embracing life as it is, then it can guide us towards wisdom and peace of mind. On the other hand, thinking about death to find excuses for not living in the present moment is like self-punishment that makes our existence absurd and meaningless.